Some seasons I have been tempted to pair up my Widowhood cocks in early July to have them sitting for the later races. It is true that because these birds will not have had a nest of eggs for several months, they will be keen to the eggs and later a youngster in the nest. But I have always found that when paired the pigeons lose the eagerness to exercise and tend to eat more. Either of these two factors can cause the cocks to lose the tremendous condition that they can reach whilst on widowhood and gain more body weight, and for me this is why I would not repair the cocks and race them to eggs. On the odd occasions that I have raced them under these circumstances, I have been disappointed by their performances, which has generally fallen short of what they can achieve whilst on the widowhood system. My recommendation from many years flying widowhood is to continue the widowhood system as I have already explained it, through to the final race you choose to send to. I am all in favour of trying to motivate the cocks differently for the very last race, but don't want to overplay this too much or too often, as without doubt widowhood cocks are extremely well motivated by the widowhood hen's presence anyway, most of the time, but for the last race it can work well. Tactics I do use for the final old bird race are one or sometimes both of the following. A. Introduce the widowhood hens the night before basketing, and B. Put in the loft a good supply of nesting material. I would feed the cocks as usual after exercise on the evening before race basketing, and when they have had their fill of food and water I will turn over their nest bowls and 10 minutes later bring in their widowhood hens and let them go in the loft. The cocks can then spend the remainder of that evening and the following day till basketing time to be with their hens. They should then be able to go off to the race very relaxed but well motivated. I would also scatter nesting material in the form of straw and tobacco stalks in the trapping bay, nest bowls, nest box and in corners of the loft floor, so the cocks will have the motivation of calling the hens to nest and the added motivation of building and providing the hens with a place to lay, so they can start the breeding cycle and possibly causing the cocks' paternal desires to be increased. As most of the basketing for the national races in this area takes place around midday, I would keep both cocks and hens in the loft on the morning of basketing. If, however, race basketing was not until the evening, I would give them an open loft till midday and then feed them and give them the afternoon in the loft together. Cocks returning from the final race of the old bird season would be allowed to keep their hens with them as soon as they return from the race. It is generally a good policy to allow a good widowhood cock to rear one youngster as a reward for his efforts during the season in August or early September, but I prefer all late breds to be out of the way after the first week of September. Sitting eggs with their hens in the widowhood loft will still allow the pigeons to molt freely. However, having youngsters in the nest will delay the molt for a short while, and this should not be allowed to happen more than once after racing is over. If you don't want to rear those late breds to the weaning stage, the adult birds will be unaffected physically if you dispose of the babies at the 10-day stage. I see this time after racing as the perfect opportunity to change the widowhood hens for the better cocks, if I think this would be beneficial. It is also a good time to move any widowhood cocks to a different nest box, or again if necessary to a different loft. You can then use the months of September and October to give the pigeons time to settle and get used to their new surroundings, and get them happily going in and out of the loft. This is the time of year when your old birds should be allowed to molt freely, and they should not be flown out too regularly, but fed well and just allowed to get on with the molt. In the autumn, sometime in October, I would take the hens away from the widowhood cocks and just leave the cocks on their own. Exercise would be a maximum of once per week along with a bath, although if I had any trouble from sparrowhawks, exercise would cease and I would keep them in the loft. Feeding would be a good molting mixture with a good balance of protein and carbohydrates, along with a little depurative. 75% molting mixture and 25% depurative. My birds will be fed twice a day, 8 AM and 5 PM, until the light is reduced in the evening, and then I would feed at 8 AM and 4 PM, and in the shortest days of December, 8 AM and 3:15 PM. Birds can have as much as they want. This is regulated by the barley in the depurative. When they start leaving a few grains of barley, morning and afternoon, they have had enough. I don't really like to leave food down in the damp winter weather, so I stop when a few grains are left, or gather up what is left in the trough after the pigeons have flown back to their nest boxes. I firmly believe it is a good policy to block off any nest boxes completely with hardboard, so that cocks don't take more than one box, or move from one box to another. I do try to prevent a cock from changing boxes, because he is likely to want the original box where he perched along with the new one. In 2005 I have been particularly cautious with my young cocks, wanting to build up a team of potential widowers. Most young cocks have only had a maximum of 4 races. They have not been risk chasing young bird prizes, but have had substantial training and experience of a few races, experience of overnighting the race baskets, drinking from racing crates, liberation with numbers of other birds, and most importantly, homing in reasonable time from races. They have not been worn out by long flights, long holdovers, and lots of racing. If you are racing entirely on widowhood, your young cocks are extremely important, and you must have one eye on the future for them. If you are going to race all on widowhood, it is vital to build a good strong team of racing cocks, as these are your present and your future. Now, as we bring this DVD to a close, I am sure that I have shown you all the most important points of how I operate my widowhood system. I may decide to make a few minor changes over the next few years, but on the whole, I know that this method works well for me, my pigeons, and quite a number of other fanciers. So you can feel assured that this way of racing widowhood can be successful. Why not make your own changes to improve the system further? Until the next time then, I hope that your pigeons can put up some fantastic performances as a result of wonderful widowhood.